Council will have a zoning board of adjustment, and we'll go ahead and call the order. And as our normal custom, we will have an invocation and pledge of allegiance for tonight.
Heavenly Father, we are here in this month for the Van Alstyne City Council meeting. Again, we humbly ask for your guidance and bless us with the knowledge, the wisdom, and the ability to carry out our duties and procedures as you would see fit. We ask you to continue to bless our whole community, our citizens, our city officials, our first responders, and everyone. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas,
one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, first item of business is conduct a public hearing regarding a request by the owner agent of the property situated in the city of Van Alstyne, County of Grayson, State of Texas, being described as Greer's First Edition Block 10 Lot E/2, one located at 681 Nash Avenue in 558 Arizona Street, currently zoned single-family residential district. F1 for a variance to the Van Alstyne Code of Ordinances, Section 46-73D, to reduce the front yard, side yard, interior, side yard, corner lot, street side, and rear setbacks for the structure at 681 Nash Avenue, and reduce the front yard setback and minimum building size for the structure at 558 Arizona Street to allow for a replat into 2 lots with no modifications to the existing structure. Do we have anybody here to speak on that?
So my name is Leslie Griffith. I'm with the Alstyne Group at Berkshire Pathway. I am representing Margie, the owner. Unfortunately, she got detained at her office down in Dallas. And so I'm here to kind of fill in for her. I believe we have pictures that she sent in also of the subject properties. That's the back property. That actually faces Arizona. Both of these properties are on the same parcel. That's the front property that faces Nash Street. Both of these properties have been rentals for years, but on the same parcel, but to different families. So it hasn't ever been, for years and years and years, anything that was like an in-law quarters or mother-in-law quarters. They are literally 2 separate houses, not designed to be an in-law quarter type house. So she currently has 2 different tenants in there. The back tenant in the smaller of the 2 homes is very interested in going from a renter to being able to purchase the home and be a homeowner. So she is requesting that she's gone before the P&Z and the engineers, and they have been in support of this. She will need variances. The back house doesn't meet the square footage requirements, and so she needs a variance for that, along with she's shy of the property square footage for both of them. Her plans are to put up a fence. There is a partial fence already behind this house, the front house on Nash Street, and she would continue that over to separate the yards a little bit more, but there already is a separation.
Do you know when the small house, when was it built?
The small house was built in 1930. The front house here, I believe, was 1980. might have been
Margins really seven.
70s. Okay.
She gave you
But
that.
the back house supposedly is a 1930 according to tax records. She has gone in and done a lot of updating of the homes. The small house was pretty bad shape when she bought it. It's been completely redone inside. Foundation work on both properties. But again, it is the folks that were living in both properties prior to her buying it had no relationships with each other. They were just rental properties. She bought it as such, and there's new tenants in both. Again, though, there's no relation at all. And again, the back renters really would like to be able to become homeowners, and it's a good way for them to start, and they would like to start here in Alstyne.
I think on separate meters and then all that
Everything is
stuff.
separate, so it's separate addresses. There's Arizona Street and Nash Street, they both have separate addresses. All utilities are separate addresses, mailbox is separate. So there's nothing indicating it would be the same parcel on this, except for the fact that it is the same parcel. Why technicality?
I always drive by the properties to see if I can, because paper doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's visual, so I did drive over there, and it does it looks like they're not even supposed to be together. So
No,
it's not-
exactly.
It's not one of those other type of situations like an in-law suite.
Right.
From what I could see, it was completely different. And Nash Street kind of dead ends,
Yes, it
like her,
does.
or not Nash, is it Arizona?
Arizona Street.
Arizona
dead
Street
ends.
is that's like the only house there.
Right.
Is she wanting to buy the back or the back property or this
The
property?
tenants that are in the very back house, so the smaller of the two, those are the ones that currently are interested in buying the house.
She already owns the house, but she wants to
She
sell.
owns
No,
both.
the tenants, but there's a retaining wall between these two, correct?
Yes, there is.
So from an engineering perspective, is there any issue with flooding or anything that would drop down from that house to the other one where you would need to fix that before we could separate these two pieces of property?
Bob and Len have been helping her on this.
The last thing we're gonna do is have her sell it to the tenant and then it flood and then she goes, well, what the,
We had looked at this property just from a perspective of trying to determine whether it was applicable and could be done, and from an engineering perspective. And Lynn had actually worked directly with Margie and worked with, and went to the P&Z meeting and discussed it. And Lynn is actually the one that kind of came up with the way to break the lots up to minimize the number of variances.
okay.
Not to say that it's perfect, but
Yeah.
at least it was, the objective and the goal was to minimize the number of variances that would have to be approved. And I don't believe that there's an issue with the drainage because the lots are really small.
Okay.
And so the amount of water that would be coming across here would be so minimal that there would not be any kind of an impact from an engineering perspective.
I wouldn't think the building, these were built so long ago that the size of the house isn't even a factor now, is it? She's not building any property, it's existing and been existing for a while. Is that a factor or not?
Well, in order to replat, when two units are on one lot, the smaller one could be an accessory structure, which is supposed to be a smaller size building. I don't know if this meets the accessory structure, requirements or not, but when you have a home on a single lot, there are minimum square footage requirements in the zoning ordinance that house would not meet unless a variance is given to
I
allow
don't
it to
think
be
either house
smaller.
meets it right now, because it was built so long ago, is what she was saying, so that's my question, is, my opinion, to be
Are
grandfathered
they both
in.
too small? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so the variance is for both houses, yes.
Okay.
Any other person wishing to comment or is anything else descriptive?
No, I don't have anything for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you.
5, consider take any action necessary regarding approval of minutes from the May 14, 2019 meeting.
Make a motion to approve
Item 6, consider taking the action necessary regarding a request by the owner agent of the property situated in the city of Van Alstyne, county of Grayson, state of Texas, being described as Greer's First Edition, Block 10, Lot E2, located at 681 Nash Avenue and 558 Arizona Street, currently zoned single-family residential district. -1, single-family -1 for a variance to the Van Alstyne Code of Ordinances, Section 46-73D, to reduce the front yard, side yard interior, side yard, corner lot, street side, and rear yard setbacks for the structure at 681 Nash Avenue, and reduce the front yard setback and minimum building size for the structure at 558 Arizona Street to allow for a replat into 2 lots with no modification to the existing structure.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the variance as requested.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
A second one.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. And that concludes our business for the zoning board assessment. And we will go ahead and call regular council to order. Item 2, citizens communications. Anybody wish to speak on behalf of something not on the agenda or something near and dear to your heart?
Talk about your kids. Talk about your children.
Yes. All right, with that,
Hi, Steve. Does anybody have any kids here that are on the VA baseball team? Just want to say congratulations to you all. No, I was just going to say congratulations. That's awesome.
we'll do that at the end because we have a lot of congratulations.
I was trying to get one out of the way.
All right. Well, at this time, we are going to move to executive session. It's our way of keeping you here for longer, but actually it's for getting the executive session out of the way. So if we have something that we can report to the public, we still want to share that as best as we can. So pursuant to the following designated sections of the Texas Government Code, annotated subchapter 551, the council will enter into executive session to discuss the following items. Section 551.071, consultation with attorney on contemplated litigation or in a matter in which the duty of attorney under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meetings Act regarding CCN service areas, and item 3, any and all items listed on the agenda for open session. B, section 551.087, economic development negotiations regarding lot 1, lot 3, lot 4, lot 5, lot 6, Project Minnesota, and Project Last. So we will, at 6:44, prior to executive session, be back as quickly as possible. Thank you. There'll be no action items from education on that. Item 4, consider taking the action necessary regarding the 2017-2018 fiscal year audit presented by Susan LaFollette Company.
Should I go to the mic or? Okay.
I have to turn it on. She's going to try.
Good evening, I'm Susan LaFollette, and I'm here to talk about our 2018 audit. Can you guys hear me?
I just leave it here closer to the mic.
Okay. How's that? No?
Is it on?
There's the switch. There we go. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here to talk about the audit. I'm Susan LaFollette. Tonight's agenda is to talk about the objectives and scope of the audit, our financial report, the highlights, audit results, a few few recommendations, some required communications, and closing remarks. Our objective, of course, was to conduct an audit in accordance with government auditing standards and to perform an audit to obtain reasonable assurance that it's free of material mistake. We did a full scope audit of all of the city's governmental activities, business type activities, both compound units and each major fund. The table of contents has our report, management discussion and analysis, various financial statements, the notes, required supplemental information, and our report on internal controls and compliance. First, let's talk about the government-wide financial statements. Those are the first 2 pages, 89, and they're prepared on a full accrual basis. At the end of the year, the city had a net position of $13,917,858. And overall, that net position increased by $1,002,000. That's on page 9, or 10%. The unrestricted net position was $393,732. That is a decrease this year of $395,116, and that is primarily due to the decrease that is in the water fund, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. Further on the government-wide, this is year 4 for the GASB 68 pension information. The city has a pension liability of $373,000 at the end of the year, and their pension liability is 92% funded. That all comes from TMRS calculated for them. This year, we also had to implement GASB 75, and that is the other post-employment benefits other than pensions, and that resulted in a citywide liability of $74,861. The general fund financial statements, we'll talk about that. Those are the modified accrual financial statements that start on page 10. The general fund has an unassigned fund balance of $1,002,000 at the end of the year. Last year it was $1,001,000. It's a slight increase of about $12,000. These funds can be used to meet the city's ongoing obligations, and it means basically that the city has a reserve of 3.5 months, and where 3 to 6 months is optimal, so that's very good. Now, the water fund is a different story. The unrestricted net position of the water fund has gone from negative $176,000 to $788,000. So it's going in the wrong direction. It basically means there's no reserve. These are just calculations that look at the overall net position. Most of it's invested in capital assets, and then it results in a negative unrestricted. And later on, I'll go over a recommendation when we're talking about evaluating the rates and the other budgets that you can use to possibly increase this balance to a 0. But overall, the net position did increase, and it increased by $378,000 or 5%. Component units, we also did audit them. EDC had a net position of $646,878, which was a decrease of $38,810. CDC had a net position of $318,091, and that was a decrease of $1,600. Our independent audit report is unmodified, which is a clean audit opinion, so it's only standard language in there. And our report on internal controls did find 2 matters that we consider material weaknesses. It's primarily due to the EDC, actually both of them are EDC. The first one was financial reporting. The EDC did not perform any closing entries at the end of the year, so all of those were left open, and also they didn't correctly post several material transactions relating to debt. Our recommendation was to turn it over to the city to do an assist, and that's been done, so that should be corrected The other thing was the EDC minutes didn't properly record the debt. So both of those things, I think with the new board, should all be in place. The city, this is really big news for you guys. We have one page of recommendations, and so this is awesome compared to the probably 3 slides of these in prior years. So congratulations to the city. There were very minor recommendations: implement written inventory policies, capitalize all fixed asset purchases over $5,000, which is your capitalization policy, create and implement written credit card policies, consider establishing another fund for street project monies. A lot of these things have already been implemented. That fund, I think, is being created. Evaluate an amount for unbilled utility receivable at year end. The other thing, this relates to the water fund, hiring a rating model analyst to perform a 5-year study. You have your studies, I think, 10 years old, and you need to do a new one most likely to take a look at costs, including infrastructure and operations. And that could maybe help you with the budget, which can help you get back to zero on your unrestricted monies. And I think the city's already taken action there, so that was cool. The CDC did have 2 minor things there. I would recommend to improve internal controls that you can consider moving their books out of QuickBooks over to Assist as well, just for one stop. A lot of times the QuickBooks are done by just volunteer board members. If those board members aren't in place, then it's difficult for these things to be done. And then there was a debit card, which we always recommend not using a debit card, use a credit card, just do the progress. There is another letter that has some communications in it that's talking about sensitive estimates such as your allowance for uncollectible court and ambulance services, your disclosures that are sensitive or significant, or your long-term debt. There were no difficulties in performing the audit. In that letter, you'll also find a list of all the adjustments that we proposed in Schedule A and all of the adjustments that we noted but passed on in Schedule B with no disagreements with management. Finally, I'd just like to thank everybody, Lane, Angela, Jennifer, Rodney, and Laura. Everybody was very helpful, got the process going, and everyone on the staff was thrilled because it was the easiest audit here that we've done here in the last 4 years. So we were excited. Congratulations. If anybody has any questions or comments.
Many of the recommendations, though, that you brought to the management, that they have already started implementing.
Yes.
Those things.
Yes, I didn't list it up here, but if you look at the management recommendation letter, each one is followed by management response, and many of those they're either already doing something or planning to do something. And so it'll have the comment and management's written response, and so they've agreed to correcting all the things that are still there.
Any comments or?
Thank you.
Item 5, conduct a public hearing regarding the 2018 annual drinking water quality report.
Do you want them to accept it?
I'm sorry, say it, I was lost in a question over here.
I know you really focus on the numbers of it all, but we're going to go to the quality report. And I previously asked because I want you to read the entire report because I know it's important.
I'm sorry, the question was, doesn't the council need to vote to approve the audit? And you do. If you would do that.
We just take action.
In an open meeting, why is it not written down?
I'll make a motion to approve the audit as presented.
Have a second, and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Now we can talk about the drinking water.
Good evening. We finished up our drinking water. Of course, overall the tests and everything showed our water quality was good. However, we had some administrative issues, and I'm going to let Bob explain some of the violations that we received in administration.
One of the things that has kind of been floating around is this idea of the city having violations, and there's a concern about water quality. And so I just want to briefly, and the city manager asked me to come up and just make a very brief presentation. So I have about 7 slides, so it should be over an hour. In 2017, back in 2014, I believe it was, the state initiated a lead and copper program to test water mains for lead and copper. And in 2017, the city was required to begin testing. And so they were required, based on the number of connections, size of the city, to take 10 samples between June and September of 2017. The interesting thing about those samples is the state law requires that those samples be taken by the homeowner or the resident of the home. The city staff is not allowed to take these samples. They have to be taken. When we turn to the next page, you'll see that there's a form that is provided to the citizen, the resident, the occupant of the home. Here's the procedures that you need to follow to take this sample. And I'm not going to try to give you a reason why the state did that, but that is the requirement. It is what we have to live with. So those samples are then, the clean bottles, the clean sample bottles are provided to the homeowner with this instruction. The homeowner takes the samples, calls the city picks them up, takes them to the lab to have them tested. And the next page. What happened in September of 2017, the city took 10 samples. 2 of those samples tested positive for high levels of copper, is my recollection.
Yes.
Those 2 homes were then retested shortly thereafter and passed. Now, it is my opinion, based on what has happened and what's happened since then, the samples were either inappropriately taken, or taken the wrong way, or they're contaminated, or they were mishandled by the lab after they were delivered to the lab. I want to emphasize right now that the city of Alstyne has never, at least not in my tenure looking here in the last 6-7 years, never experienced a violation for actual water quality conditions. The lead and copper is as close as we've ever come, and because there were 2 homes that failed, they require a 90% pass rate. So 2 out of 10 is 20%, and we failed. That put us in the lead and copper program and put us under a microscope with TCQ. We had to begin testing 40 homes every 6 months after that. Since then, we've tested 40 homes on multiple occasions. The most we've ever had fail were 2 out of the 40. And again, those homes were again retested and they passed. They came out, instead of positive, they were negative as far as test results. The negative results, though, again, are attributed, in my opinion, to an error in taking the test, an error in taking the sample, and we did actually have a case of 2 samples that were actually mishandled at the lab.
Yes.
And they therefore were deemed failed, even though we retested and they passed. The next forms there that you'll see on those next 3 forms, those are notification forms that are required as part of the lead and copper program. When we take the sample from the homeowner, we're required to notify the homeowner of the results of the test. And that was done. The city staff went out and notified the homeowner. However, there's also a form that's required to be sent to the state that says we certify that we notified the homeowner and gave them the results of the test. The 5 violations that you saw attached to the CCR report from TCQ were because the state did not receive that certification of the notification for those 5 homes. And so the violation that we had nothing to do with water quality, it had nothing to do with lead and copper, it had to do with a procedural error of the state not receiving that certification that those property owners or property homeowners were given, home residents were given that information. I think there's one other slide. The follow-up after the test results, as I said, those forms were shown, but TCQ just doesn't have the record of those 5 homes, as I said. I will tell you that the city of Alstyne now, after 2 years plus, has been released or reduced from the impact of the lead and copper program that we were under, because we have not again had a failure. We've had a continued success since then, and we will be applying for reduced monitoring in the near future. and should be able to go back to testing fewer homes than we have been. In fact, I think we're only required to test 20 instead of 40. This is the form that was attached to the CCR and also was posted on the website, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. These are the violations, and the TCQ required it for us to be released from this violation. We had to notify the citizens of the failure to document the forms that were delivered to the homes. So again, I want to re-emphasize, the city has never had an issue with water quality. We do not have an issue with lead and copper. We do not have an issue with violations. I'll brag a little bit. Steve White has done an awesome job of working with TCQ, working with the Water Development Board to make sure that all of our testing is done in an appropriate method. And he's the reason that we haven't had a violation. Because prior to that, the city had numerous violations in the past. So I just wanted to highlight that, let everybody know that the violations of anybody's concern, they have nothing to do with water quality, even though that's kind of what that says.
I entertain any other questions.
Do you know what the outlet carb levels were in 2016?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Do you know what the outlet carb levels were in 2016?
Yeah, I'd have to look.
Oh,
Most people don't understand, when we start in January, TCQ requires us to report 7 different reports by May. And that's, for 7 months, that's all I do is interact with TCQ. And it's hard to do and maintain the operations that we have. And eventually one day we'll get an administrative assistant, maybe that will relieve some of that. But overall, we had a good reading. I mean, we didn't have any violations on our water quality. And I interact with TCQ, me and Bob interact today with TCQ every day just about. And I do have a good relation with them.
well, I know it's a great job, but it's an important job. I'll sit here and tell you thanks for what you do, but it is important to the citizens that have that confidence. I appreciate it.
And we did bring this to attention of the 5 violations, so we're not trying to hide anything to the citizens.
Yeah, you put it in council package, so it's open to the public now, and they can check with it. That will go into the consent agenda. If you look at your agenda, we'll be taking number 9 off. So we'll just consider 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12.
All right, okay, appreciate it.
We need to. No, it's not right. Apparently I wasn't known very much.
The minutes for May 14th.
May 14th, it doesn't show these figures. You don't remember? That's all I said.
We will want to remove number items 6 and 9 now. So items 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. We're going to cancel those.
I'll make a motion to approve items 7, 8, 10, 11, and 12.
Have a motion, is there a second? Second. Motion is second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? Item 13,
But 6 and number 6.
sorry.
Can you figure that?
So we just approve it with adding in the verbiage that she was there.
Yes.
So now, so did we move that down to the regular agenda?
Yeah, because
Okay. So I'll address item 6 and I'll make a motion to approve item 6 in minutes, adding in Marla Butler in the meeting. Of being present.
we have a motion to add Councilwoman Butler in. Motion is second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposition?
If she was really there.
Number 13, consider taking any action necessary regarding resolution. None?
9.
Oh,
Back to 9.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was all for the state.
No, I think, I'm sure we were removing item 9 from the agenda.
Completely.
I misunderstood.
We'll put it on the July agenda.
I think it was issues now 13. We're going to get to 13. Consider taking any action necessary regarding recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission for reappointment to the commission.
Yeah, so I think, I want to make a request to move this, or take this off the agenda and move it to our next one. And the reason being is we are not, so essentially what happened beforehand was these boards would take a vote on their open spots and list people to go in these spots. And then it would come to council, and council would just approve it as what the board did. Well, we kind of X that out through the entire process of what we did, and going through a more rigorous process of applying and then, vetting and everything, and it was given to council with all the people that were applying and all the spots, and then council each individually voted on putting those people in those places, and then it was, the unanimous ones ended up getting that spot. We are not doing that anymore. We're going right back to what we were beforehand, where we're just approving what the board, placed in their order, which, no offense to the board, if you want to vote that way, that's fine, but it should be on paper to give everybody equal opportunity to be considered for these spots. And so I'd like for us to move this, and then us getting that information so that we can all individually put our recommendations in there and hand it in, and then obviously if it's unanimous, that person will be in that voted, in that spot. That's my 2 cents.
Just basically moving it to follow procedure.
Yeah, moving it to follow the original procedure we did when we started with this new board
Your board.
hierarchy and implementation system, implementation that we did how many months ago. I think it's only fair, and it gives everybody, all of our citizens who are applying for these spots, the right for every council member to look at each individual one and not just take the word of the board and put them in place, and actually vote with the ones that we feel are rightfully need to go in that spot. And again, you can vote along with how the board votes, but each one of us should have say-so to be able to do that. I'm not saying we wouldn't, but I think it's fair, it's transparent if we do it that way.
Make a motion to postpone it?
Well,
Well, what do y'all think? I mean,
we can do no action. Yeah, we just do no action and we'll come back.
but I mean,
But in the meantime, we need to be, it's got to, just like the board, just has to be presented to us first before we're just right here doing this.
Yeah.
yeah, just the board.
I'm sorry, I know it's out of order, but can I say something? Last time you guys had, for P and Z, you did get the applications, you did go outside of their choices. And so it was done that way before. And this time, I think the only applications were a couple of alternates and the people that were re-signing up are being reassigned. So I think it was 3 of them. For the
Yeah,
P and Z.
We don't know that though, it wasn't given to us.
Yeah, it wasn't given an outline that way, so it was, it's not that we wouldn't say, hey, the board suggested that these people are the ones that need to go in the spot, it just needs to be given to us to be able to go, okay, these people are the ones that we're putting in the spot, like, we get to see all.
It's a slight procedural process here, where we do, we really need to come to council first.
Because if we don't, you know what happens.
We want to be consistent with the way we did before.
I'm just a little confused.
I think Councilman Neal's point is that the way you perceived the procedure was that council would get everybody's recommendations and we would vote on it.
But we would individually put, you have slot 1, 2, 3, and alternate, and then here's the 8 people applying for it, and you put which one you want in those slots, or based on the deal, and that way everybody has
I got it.
every ability
It's
to put.
procedural, that's all.
Yeah, it's just
Because you
procedural.
could do that right
The
now.
outcome was not necessarily, it was actually a procedure, I think, I guess.
Yeah, no, I
Because
got
you
it.
had 8 people that applied for planning and zoning of, 3 spots and 2 alternates?
Yes.
So essentially, if we just said, okay, we'll go with planning and zoning, we didn't even get to look at 3 candidates. I mean, we did, but we didn't. I mean, I had to brought it up, and then we had to vote on it, and that person, it's just, it's easier to do it the other way, where everybody gets a fair shake. It's
We'll
transparent.
I got it.
Okay,
Good.
so no action on item 4. Item 14, consider take any action necessary regarding passage of an ordinance amending the city of Van Alstyne's code of ordinances, section 2-183 regarding permit fees. This was what we did the other day.
Yeah, this is just revising that, I'll make a motion to approve
I'll second
the
it.
ordinance amending the amendment.
I'll
We
second
have
it.
we have a motion, a second, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposition, like that? Number 15, city manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, the first round of our 2019-2020 budget discussions are underway with each department head, having spent a little time with myself and our city controller over the past 2 weeks. This will help in the planning process by providing an understanding of department head goals and objectives for next year. We're going to take that information, prioritize them, rank them, so as we need to pare down, we can have a good way of getting that done. Negotiations continue with Rislin, the Manchway development, about providing police and fire protection services to the utility district. The city manager has met with Rislin on several occasions over the past month and negotiated an agreement that is beneficial to Rislin as well as the city of Van Alstyne. I believe both Rislin and the city have a clear understanding of goals and objectives, and I feel positive that we're going to be able to get to an agreement that's favorable. I would like to encourage the citizens of Van Alstyne to assist the city by completing a survey. The survey requires less than a minute to complete and will provide TxDOT critical information needed to formulate a metropolitan transportation plan for out years. The survey can be taken on your smartphone or on your desktop, and it's www.sdmpo.org. If they scroll down to 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, it would be appreciated. And if you would encourage people to take this survey, it would be helpful. A project being worked on in City Hall. We're updating the existing sign ordinance, and we'll have that before City Council in July. Working on 2 additional ordinances that I hope to have before Council in August. Developing an incentive proposal for the EDC to help attract commercial businesses. All 4 properties the city wishes to purchase are now in escrow. I have a phone conference tomorrow with a credit evaluation firm regarding bond issuance and our credit ranking, hoping to move our credit standing up, and we're currently ranked high. I'll be meeting with Eddie Peacock and Jim Sabonis this Friday to review our water debt fund and develop a plan of action to establish a reserve fund. Continuing to work on the 1920 budget. Let's see. I've helped broker a solution to our railroad track problem here at 121. I know, amen, it's true. TxDOT will be milling the road, the asphalt on both sides of that track. Once that work is done, the railroad will come and install new concrete pallets, and then it will be a smooth transition from both sides. And I have both organizations now speaking to each other and coordinating that repair. Other than that, not much.
Try to pick it up if you can.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Just a couple of places that I actually spend quite a bit of time at, the parks, Greenfield, and I just wanted to thank, they're going now, the Public Works, the parks guys. They're out there, every time I've been at any one of the parks, they're there, and they look good. They really have the fruit, so their hard work is laying, is hanging on. Also, the library, I go to their little story time most weeks, and it is very busy. They're working so hard and providing a great service for our kids, and I just think that's great.
Just thank everybody for coming out. Appreciate it.
Good, thanks.
I think
I just love giving him our time. It's so much fun.
Oh, thank you for coming out, and just with the summertime, everybody being out and about, there are any number of amazing and wonderful things happening around Ben Alstyne and our Texoma area. So please take advantage of all those, especially with the long days, and there are some great things coming to Ben Alstyne, so it's a good time.
I'm sorry you didn't get to read your entire water report.
I'll just decide.
Mr. Jackson. Okay. As always, thank all of our citizens, all of our elected volunteers. That's about all that's left here, I think. Also thank our small business owners that may or may not be here. I know we have one. And thank the city staff for all the hard work that they've done. Do have a couple of announcements. Community events for the library. There's a family event at the community center each Monday during the summer. Starts at 10:30 a.m. each Monday during the summer. This coming Monday is Big Rig Day, which the police, the fire, and public works vehicles will be there for the kids to see and maybe get to sit in and all that good stuff. Friends of the library are having a rummage sale. Donation drop-off is at the community center, 8 to 4, Thursday, June 13th, and the sale is 8 to 3, Saturday, June 15th. We also have the Tame Traveling STEM Museum at the library, June 18th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then Read Across Texas, Know Your Neighbor, Cultivating Compassion is an adult discussion Thursday evenings at the library, 6:30. June 13th through July 11th. And then Mary Jane, there's a asking to go to a website and vote now, www.texascountrymusicassociation.org. 2019 Young Rising Star finalist Austin Michael of Van Alstyne. So if you could log on there and vote, and voting is open until July 15th. The 2019 TCMA awards are given to Willie Bobs in Fort Worth Stockyard Sunday, September 22nd. And then I believe we have music in the park for these Tuesdays or entertainment. You know who?
Chad Duplantier. He's a guitarist from the King area.
Okay. Everybody hear that?
No, say it again, Jessica.
Yeah. Trying
for 4th of July. And then we have a cleanup. Yeah, 9 a.m. So that'll be volunteers and community people. We provide gloves, we provide litter pickups, we provide water. We recommend that you bring pads and or suntan lotion, just in case. And we will be starting the cleanup at 9 a.m. So it's not too hot yet. Please, it's not too hot or raining. In the event that it does rain, we will not have
And last thing, we have chamber breakfast on the 3rd Tuesday this month, and that's at 8 o'clock here at City Hall. Everybody's welcome to it.
And I know it was on,
Wednesday.
I'm sorry.
Third Wednesday. Yeah, third Wednesday.
Third Wednesday. Golly, I almost blew it.
and I know it was on your list and you just missed it, but the scouting program is running a car show this Saturday at North Park, so be there or be square. And we will be moving our July city council meeting from the 9th to the 16th next month.
No, I had the dates wrong. I knew we were going to do that.
Might have said something.
Boy, I really did wrong. The one thing the manager brought up a little bit ago was about the survey. I don't know if it'll make a great deal of difference, but I had a short conversation with the county judge. This area is still in the running for some text dot funds that will go a long way for road expansions, specifically I think the 75 corridor from County Line all the way north. So please, if you would, take that survey. I think every bit of participation will only help us in every which way.
What was the website for the survey?
It is www. Gotta find it again, hang on.
SDMPO.org.
Here it is.
SD.
SDMPO.org.
Is that city residents only?
No, it's,
No.
everybody's getting these notices, but we really want to have that representation to put your 2 cents in for whatever it's worth. And it's not a really difficult or in-depth, but I think the more awareness we can raise on our behalf and make us church, the more likely it will happen here for us. So
Can I make one announcement too?
this is highly irregular.
July 4th, the fireworks will go on out at the high school. The city's helping, coordination is going through a fire chief who's really working hard on that. Music, the Star Spangled Banner and some other things by our own resident Larry Martin. With backup from twins, sophomore, high school sophomore twins, Jacob, Jared, and Caleb, and they're gonna back him up on bass, and they're getting together tomorrow for the first time, never met. So, that'll be out there. We're trying to get Austin to come too, but he's got it all, but it's actually paid, so.
Well, thank you all for sticking around. I know if you